start with the Democrats. The latest Suffolk University poll has Obama leading by 5 points in New Hampshire. He's up 9 points in the American Research Group poll, and the Reuters Zogby poll has him up 13 points. That's Obama in the lead. The Real Clear Politics website, which averages the numbers together, has Obama at 38, Clinton down at 30, an 8-point spread, Edwards a distant third at 18, Bill Richardson all the way down at 6. On the Republican side, the Suffolk poll has Mitt Romney leading by 4 points in New Hampshire tonight. But other new polls show John McCain with the lead. He's up by 7 points in the American Research Group poll, up by 9 points in the Reuters Zogby poll. The Real Clear Politics average on the Republican side has John McCain leading by 4 points at 32% to Romney's expected 28%. Huckabee's down at 12. Giuliani and Ron Paul are in single digits. We go first to NBC's Lee Cowan, who's covering the Barack Obama campaign. You're at the headquarters. What can you report, Lee?
Well, Chris, you know, this campaign had promised all along that it was going to get a big turnout, especially among the young voters, just like they did in Iowa. And we do know that turnout has been so big in some places that they actually ran out of ballots. That they had to call the Secretary of State to bring in more ballots to some of those places. So it seems as though the turnout is certainly in their favor. This campaign never particularly looked at the poll numbers of late, though. They said they focused a lot more on the size and the enthusiasm of the crowds that they've drawn over the last couple of days. What we've seen here is crowds that are anywhere between twice to a third bigger than what we saw in the last couple of days leading up to the Iowa caucuses. Almost every place had an overflow room. We're talking thousands of people in these rallies, not necessarily hundreds of people. That's what made the campaign feel relatively confident. Again, the senator himself says, look, we haven't won anything yet. He's being cautious, but he says they feel pretty good.
You know, Lee, it used to be said of Barack Obama, and you can fill us in on this, that he would walk into a room to incredible applause and then leave the audience a bit lower than he found it or entered it. Now, I mean, I was at one of those events this weekend. I can tell you that I saw, heard, and felt the excitement of that room growing and growing and growing throughout his appearance. Is that the sense you get or can report on his appearances the last several days?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that a while back some of the speeches were perhaps a little academic. Perhaps he fell into that professorial mode that was talked about a lot. And you're right, he didn't sometimes end up on a crescendo. That's changed. I think he's now sort of high octane from the moment he walks into these rallies till the time he leaves. It's that speech that he gave in Iowa that got such a good reception there. He's retooled a little bit. He said some things. He's a lot more relaxed now up on the stump. He varies it a little bit. He seems very comfortable in front of these crowds. So you're right. I think he feeds off that energy, and once it starts, he just keeps it going.
I think I counted 4 crescendos in the speech I saw. It really grew, and then it grew, and then it went back and grew again. Then he chatted with the audience, then it grew again. There was a lot of professionalism there in that oratory. Anyway, thank you very much, Lee Cowan. Let's take a look before we leave at a bit of the candidate himself. Here's Senator Barack Obama of Illinois, campaigning hard at the end.
Imagine that. False hopes. Imagine John F. Kennedy looking up at the moon and saying, darn, that's far. We can't do that. Reality check. Can't be done. Imagine Dr. King standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial looking out at those crowds, 250,000 people around the reflecting pool, and saying, y'all go home. The dream has died. It can't be done. It's too hard. Lost hopes. You know, this is what this campaign is all about.
America. Anyway, NBC's Andrea Mitchell is covering the Clinton campaign for us tonight. Andrea, I was there last night. What a big crowd they brought in for that event. How's it look today?
It was a huge crowd. Hillary Clinton went to some polls today. The real newsmaker today was her husband, who blamed New Hampshire officials for scheduling this primary so soon after Iowa, saying that she didn't have time to recover, that that was a mistake, and that New Hampshire officials really weren't fair to New Hampshire voters. So I'm not sure what the strategy was for him to be dissing the New Hampshire people on the day of the New Hampshire voting, but he sounded very angry, very bitter. He was also clearly bitter Twitter last night when he went after Barack Obama, claiming that Barack Obama has not been questioned intensively in 15 debates about his claim to have always been anti-war. Obama fired back at him today and said, "I understand why the former president is frustrated given what's going on, but that wasn't my record. In fact, I simply was going along with what the candidate then, John Kerry, was saying and trying not to embarrass the Democratic nominee because I was giving the keynote address at the convention." You know, this is kind of back and forth.
Right.
Not the best way for Hillary Clinton to be wrapping up her campaign today, frankly, Chris. And as you know, there's a lot of reports that there are going to be changes. I interviewed Terry McAuliffe today, the campaign co-chair, and he said, yes, we do want to bring some more people in. We know that he called James Carville, talked to Carville, probably talked to Paul Begala as well. I can tell you Carville and Begala are not joining this campaign. That's what they say. So if they're going to bring people in, there are a lot of rumors about it, it will be other people to perhaps layer or assist some of the campaign brain trust who are being blamed for the defeat in Iowa and for what is apparently not going well for them in New Hampshire.
Let's talk about Bill and Hillary. It's always an interesting matter, not their marriage, but their politics. Is Hillary a little bit sensitive to the charge from Bill and his people that they could do a better job than she and her people?
It's actually the same people. I mean, there are some variations. I think at this point in what is a crisis for them politically, they are together in it. They are jointly running this campaign and making big decisions. Will they go to South Carolina? Should they bypass South Carolina, where they are likely to be outdistanced by Barack Obama, should he win here tonight, if the African-American vote there does go in his direction? Should they just focus on Super Tuesday, focus on Florida? They claim they're not out of money. They claim that they still have $28 million of the $100 million that they raised in the bank. But there is somewhat of a money crunch, and they are sending out email letters signed by Bill Clinton to ante up. But a lot of their people have already contributed the maximum, Chris, and you know that Barack Obama has a big advantage. He has more individual contributors who have not maxed out and who can now come forth with more money as these 23 more primaries, the big ones, come up.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrea Mitchell, with the Clinton campaign. Now, NBC's Kevin Corke, who's covering the John Edwards campaign. It's hard for John Edwards to get into this narrative, isn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, no question about it, Chris. You have two rock star candidates in Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, of course, if you include Bill into that equation. So it's been tough for John Edwards to get a word in edgewise. Now, the fact that they finished second in Iowa was something they were really hoping for. So they got a little bit of a kick. I was told by Jill Trippi that they've gotten a lot of infusion of cash, about $1 million in online contributions, get a little federal matching on that. So they're picking up some money. They're going to need that. But they also recognize, Chris, that there's no way they're going to finish probably better than a distant third. I mean, they would be happy, thrilled, frankly, if they could get 20% tonight. But they're also telling me that they're not really worried about that, because looking ahead, they're able to sit back and watch sort of the Clinton implosion, if you will. They say, look, if she continues to slide, or if she doesn't even contest in South Carolina, they can go there where, you remember, Edwards did very well in 2004. And, of course, they can go on to Nevada, where he has lots of union help and support. That's the strategy right now, Chris.
Are they hoping that they can have Hillary drop out of the race? Is that a credible probability that she'll drop out and leave it to a two-man race?
Yes and no. Yes, that's exactly what they're hoping for, but do I think that's credible? Not really, and certainly not before Super Tuesday. It's just too much at stake. They've put in too much time, effort, and money to see Hillary Clinton just sort of go belly up between now and Tsunami Tuesday. So I don't think that's going to happen. If after that point Edwards has picked up maybe a second or a first somewhere along the line, and they're feeling good and picking up some cash, then after that, maybe, okay, I'll buy that as a possibility. But I would say it's a long shot, certainly between now and then, Chris.
You know, it's funny because President Clinton said he wished his wife was, or he can say something like, if she were taller, younger, and male, she'd be doing better off. Well, John Edwards is taller, younger, and male, and he's not doing so well. So I don't get the Clinton critique here, do you?
Yeah, I really don't. I think the president is frustrated. Obviously, Senator Clinton is frustrated with what's happening. I think for John Edwards, here's the thing to remember. he recognizes that this is all about change. We've been talking a lot about that word change. He's sort of on that bandwagon anyway, and so he's trying to draw this narrative that, look, if you're looking for change, it's Obama and me versus the old school. If he can get into that narrative and somehow sort of push Hillary out the door, he likes his chances head-to-head with Obama because his message is a strong one. But I just don't know if he'll ever get there, Chris.
It's a hell of a chance. Thank you very much, Kevin Corke, with the Edwards campaign.